title of mine was TFA's Demand. And the TFA's Demand Syndrome manifested or presented itself in Los Angeles last year. Surprisingly, I think it wasn't from our core members who typically think that there are conspiracy theories or typically are concerned about the underpinnings of the organizational motivations. It really represented itself in our core members who are our rule followers. And just really, they're going to do whatever their PD has them do. And so, so we saw these core members pretty much fall into three buckets. So number one, this looked like our core members completing the foundational tools but not actually utilizing them, which I think we've already started to talk about a lot yesterday and this morning. And so to specifically address that issue, I think last year we used the pop-ins at the beginning of round 0 as a means of getting a pulse check on the core member satisfaction and assessing classroom management and whether the core member was functioning in a solid way in that regard. And so I think this year, one of the things that we're going to set our program directors up to do better is to utilize those pop-ins as a means of checking how core members are using the tools that they've created and talking about the things that they have been working on throughout round 0. One of the second ways that this presented itself in Los Angeles was that core members completed the tool templates but failed to understand the spirit behind them, which diminished their ability to invest their students in what they were working on and also in their ability to replicate the process in a future, creating future foundations for future units. And so I think specifically to address this pitfall this year, there was something in the way that our program directors were articulating what it was, and I really think that last year we tried to tackle this with we're all in this together and we are doing this to get better data sooner. And so I think it's interesting that we still had people completing deliverables for deliverables' sake, which makes me go back to there's something lost between we're doing this to get better data sooner and we still need to have these templates of things completed. And so I think this year there needs to be a bigger focus with our PDs and how they are actually articulating what it is that we're doing and why it's important and how it connects to the bigger picture of planning throughout the year. And I'm actually on the PD committee that looks at the PD training for round 0, and I think just the session I looked at last week really gets to some of the ways that a program director needs to articulate the purpose of the deliverables and what we're trying to accomplish. And so I think that will be successful. So in terms of addressing just completing the templates and losing the spirit, I think we're going to be tackling that through reinforcing some of the sessions that PD training, both for new PDs and veterans, and really getting to the PD part of the articulation. And then the last way this represented itself was it looked like core members completing the requirements, but missing the fact that this is what good teachers do. And that these foundations are actually because that is what's going to make them an effective teacher. And so I think that really was because of the fact that people were asked to do things when it didn't make sense for them, given that they didn't have a placement or that they were special ed and it didn't look Unit 1 ready, didn't look like it did for everyone else. And so I think this year we're just going to be taking advantage of all the different differentiated paths for core members so that we can try to get in front of that mindset from our core members that TFA is the man, when really, it was from some of our core members who are like biggest proponents and supporters. It's just that they were following rules and directions and not really getting the spirit or the concepts underneath it.
That's great. Thanks, Paisley. And I actually want to just quickly draw out something, which is the rule followers had implications across round 0, right? In terms of how they operated, how they interacted with us. And one of the critical places to ground them in purpose rather than rules is these kickoff sessions, right? The big point is I care about where I'm going, it's important, I understand why, and I know how I'm going to get there. And so we can sort of I don't know, adjust the rule follower mindset if we are really successful in getting to the purpose of the round zero kickoff session. So I just wanted to like make that link really more deliberate, more clear. Yeah, John.
I'm Josh from Boston. So in your all this, I guess my question was why they're not getting the purpose in round zero right now? Because I mean, my hunch would be that everyone's certainly like giving that messaging already. That's like, this is good for your kids and we're invested in your kids. So I guess, I mean, I totally have seen where this gap happens. I'm just trying to figure out like really why. Is it that we're just missing enough touch points to like very explicitly say we're on the side of kids, this is what we've learned, this is good, or we're saying it but they're still not believing us? So I guess, why is that?
Yeah, so just real quick, a couple of things. One is, I think, as I mentioned, I think we sometimes bury the headline and we focus on the technical stuff rather than like what really is this about. But then I think that the question why we're gonna get to at the PD level and the PM level in subsequent sessions as well to figure out like, you know, what do PDs need to be set up to do so that the headlines actually matter to board members, and what do we as program managers need to do so that they really get the why. So it's a great question, and we're going to try to uncover that through some of these other sessions. Yep. Yes?
One thought that just came to mind when that person asked that question, my name is Jennifer, I'm the program director in New York City, is that at least in my experience at school, some of their colleagues are not focusing on those same things during that round zero period, and they may be working with veteran teachers who already have those things in place, so they're not worried about getting plans, or even other new teachers who might be focusing on their management plans, so they might feel like it's only TFA who makes this.
I think that's a great point, and knowing that those things are happening and understanding that core member perspective will allow us to try to account for that and really even talk to it, speak to it. Yeah. Okay. These courses won't help me. Ron Gubitz?
Yep.
What do you have to say?
How you doing? What I have to say about this is actually, so these courses won't help me. In St. Louis last year, what we saw was that actually our folks went through the courses. A lot of them, I think, are rule followers, wanted to do what was right. And what we, I think had expected would, I remember thinking like, these courses, we're gonna set people up and it's just gonna work. A lot of really smart people put a lot of time into these, and I can trust the courses. And what happened is that folks ran through the courses, they produced, those who did produce deliverables were feeling good about themselves, and we were providing feedback. And then they got to their first day of in-service at St. Louis Public Schools, which is where the majority of our people are placed, and they were handed, if they were in secondary, a big fat Kaplan binder, which had a long-term plan, a scope and sequence, objectives mapped along the year. And they said, well, hold up, I just spent 2 weeks slaving over the internet and probably Facebook, but like, and they said, well, this is like, it was cognitive dissonance for them. They didn't know what to do. And I think at that point, they kind of put their fingers in their ears to us. And so the way that this, was affecting students was they had not done the work, and we had not set them up to do the work to internalize the Kaplan materials and really, take them and modify them and make them work for their students and to own them and to attach them to the goal that they had already created. So they weren't driving at a goal. Their kids weren't necessarily getting the best learning in the first, month, and they weren't able to make that right for their kids, for themselves. And like I said, they were not listening to us. They were frustrated. Direct quote, round zero was a complete waste of time. I don't know, there were some other really, poignant comments that we heard. and it was our fault because we did not set them up. So, and then for us, it was really frustrating as a program team because we wanted to help people, right? We want to make sure that they're executing great things for their students and making sure our core members are feeling supported and that we're on their side. And they were saying, well, this doesn't jive with what you've given me. So, just this year, what we're really working to do is to just modify our expectations and modify them for each specific core member placement, and work really closely with the districts we place in, so that for each specific placement, we know what that Kaplan binder is going to look like, if it's going to be Kaplan or one of the other 15 different curriculums, and like make sure that we are modifying that and translating that so that our core members, when they do go through these materials, are able to align what the district wants with what we want towards their big goals for their kids.